And it's true. Tyson Badgett is the second best quarterback in the NFC North. I think we can all celebrate. Actually, I'm just kidding. You know what? We need to calm down. I love memes and jokes as much as anybody else. But at some point, I'm sorry that I have to be the voice of reason and let everybody know that Tyson has played really well. I love him. He's going to be on this roster. He can't go to the practice squad. We can't allow him to be picked up, but let's slow our roll on the Brock Purdy things. Let's slow our roll. Drunk, you know who you are. And that guy, he knows who he is. I don't want to call out his Twitter handle because I don't want people to misconstrue who I'm talking about. But you know who you are. Be very careful with your memes. Again, he's been playing very well. Let's just be hopeful that we have a solid backup quarterback behind us because all we care about is Justin Fields progressing this season. And so, and it really is an exciting time. And you know what? That's enough. Sammy, let's just go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
Trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
It's Tuesday night. You know what that means. It is time for Take It to the Rank. Carmen Vitali will be joining us here in just a matter of moments. We could be pleased about her return. Obviously, with our busy schedules and everything being what they are, this is another pre-recorded show, but I will be in the comment section once again chatting with all of you. That was a lot of fun last week. Even the Lions fan who was sitting there, who does his thing, let him have his fun. When reality finally crashes over him like a wave. Are you okay, boy? When reality finally crashes over him like a wave in the next couple of months, let him have this little moment to go. By the way, I have some intel. Some people who are close to the situation in Detroit, they don't really care for what's going on. Oh, gosh, I can't wait. But in any event, we're very happy that you were here tonight. Again, I will be in the chat. Then I got my 10U soccer team. We're practicing. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Did want to do, before we get to Carmen, I do want to show you one thing. I don't know. I'm sure some of you follow me on the Instagram. And let me make sure. I don't know if you saw this. I got sent this from Fisher Price. It's a Little People collectible, which I just thought it was going to be Justin Fields. Instead, it turns out to be me, Adam Rank of the NFL Network, wearing my favorite. Surprisingly, my favorite color is purple. Like, how annoying is that? And this is a pretty cool thing. They called me one of the trusted voices of the NFL. And I'm like, yeah, maybe one of the voices. I don't know about trusted. The internet seems to disagree whether I'm one of the trusted voices, but still, this is pretty dope. And actually, I can just set this back here. Oh my gosh. It fell. All right. In any event, we'll figure that out at some point. But let's waste no more time because she's waiting backstage, and we're pleased to welcome back to the show from foxsports.com. It's Carmen Vitali. Carmen, how are you living? How are you doing?
I'm fine. Still in my brother's basement, which is really fun. Family time, but I'm going to be in transition here soon, and I will tell everybody, when that time comes. But for right now, I'm living great, and yeah, our schedules have just not aligned. So I'm really happy to be back.
No, we're stoked to have you. I've missed you. I've missed your voice on this. I'm curious though. I did. You know what? Let me just ask you. I sent a rundown, but I want to ask you just generally, like how has preseason been going for you? What have you noticed? What has popped out to you? How's it? I just miss you. How have you been? I just want to know.
It's good, and it's been. I've gotten to go up to Bears camp a couple of times, and I think I'm going to go on Wednesday again. So it's been nice to actually get your hands on some stories and quotes, and get to talk to people and see things. I think so much of what is frustrating about the off part of the year is that you're hypothesizing and just you don't really have anything to go off of. It's all about your opinion, and now we have some concrete stuff to talk about. which is always, it just kind of reinvigorates you and it gets you excited for this next season. And I mean, every year I just find myself surprised at the fact that I'm like glued to a television for like a game that completely doesn't matter in a division I don't cover, just because I'm that thirsty for football. So that's been kind of my life right now. And I have a bunch of different interviews that I have to do today and tomorrow and the next day. And it's kind of like, okay, finally football's back and I don't feel like I'm bothering people by talking to them. So I'm excited.
It's never a bother. Were you glued? I was working, but I was enthralled with the end of the Commanders and the Ravens game on Monday night, because the Ravens the Ravens really wanted to keep their 24 game undefeated streak, which dates back to 2016. That is pretty good. I mean, like, John Harbaugh's calling timeouts like it's a real game. Did you happen to see that? Because I got an opportunity. I was in the studio with Michael Yam, and so we were able to broadcast after that game. That was fun. That was actually like one of the best preseason games of all time.
I think what was even more fun was Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Social media was more fun because everybody was just like losing it and everybody was in it together. And that's what we love about sports, right? Is that it brings everyone together, and there is no better tool for that than social media. And so everybody was there with everyone just being like, all right, we know this game doesn't matter, but it matters. This all matters. We've decided this matters. And the memes popped off, the jokes popped off. Yeah. So I was glued to my phone, like scrolling, because I couldn't get enough of it. And then I am actually so excited. This is not something I thought of when it happened, but when the Commanders ownership changed and now Magic Johnson is a part owner of the Washington Commanders, I didn't think about the fact that we were going to get NFL Magic Johnson tweets very regularly. And now we did. And I got to I retweeted, something about whatever he said. And if you don't know, if you're not a baseball person, Magic Johnson, I don't even think he runs his social media account.
No. It is so basic and banal. There is nobody other than Magic who could run that thing, because it's always because it's just like, okay, you have to start paying attention to Magic Johnson's Twitter, because it's amazing. And it's so, it is like what your grandfather, like a real grandfather, would be like, hey, I know it's preseason, but what a game. Like, it's just so like endearing.
It's the most basic, but that's the thing, is it's not annoying at all. It's very endearing of Magic Johnson to just state the obvious and state things so matter-of-factly that like is just the basis of what happened. And like, it's just, I love it so much. And now I realize that we are going to get Washington Commanders Magic Johnson tweets. And I'm so excited.
I cannot wait for that. And I really want to drop. I don't want to send the chat into a full tailspin, but I'll just say this real quick. We're not going to discuss it. I'm going to make this statement and we're going to move on. I'm not going to address it. You guys can talk about it in the comments. Magic was better than Michael Jordan. Okay, let's talk about football though. And
this is the wrong podcast to say that on. Are you
perfect?
kidding?
It's the perfect one. We just lost all our subscribers. Stop it, guys. I'm joking. Maybe. I don't know. That's a special, you know what? That's an off-season one. I'm going to bring on somebody, one of the basketball heads, because I have some real big thoughts about that, but we have too much stuff going on with the Chicago Bears. And one of the things, I will say this too about that game on Monday night. That, I believe, is what social media was intended for. Like, that is when something like that happens, you forget how much fun it can be. Like, social media has devolved into what it is. But the whole point of it was what we saw on Monday night, where everybody was watching the same game. And it goes for like World Cup and Super Bowls and all. And that's really when social media is at its best. And everybody's in this collective, like, we're in this together. This is hilarious. And we're having jokes. And even for me, and thanks to everybody who reached out during the hurricane, the tropical storm, the earthquake, everything that happened in Southern California over the weekend. A lot of people, like, sincerely were concerned, and we were more concerned about the flooding and making sure water wasn't seeping into our house. So I figured our family was going to be safe, and people have dealt with this, but still, California is not quite, we see the roads collapsing and everything, but thanks to everybody for the concern. Everything is fine. I've still not been out to my desert house, so I can't 100% speak to that, but still everybody's safe and accounted for. So we appreciate the love and support there. But I was going to say on social media, now on Monday, it was announced the Indianapolis Colts will allow Jonathan Taylor to go out there and seek a trade. And the Colts are looking for a bigger return than what the Carolina Panthers got last season for Christian McCaffrey, which was a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth, I think spread over 2 years. It's a steep price. And of course, everybody's writing their columns. Hey, like, here's 4 teams that could use Jonathan Taylor. And I said, there will be nothing that makes me click out of this article more than them listing the Chicago Bears. And what did you write one?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so. I know that our friend, you know who did? Nick Shook, our friend at NFL Media. And I called him out for it. And I go, listen,
Good.
The head of our original content team, his name is Ali. He is a Chicago person. I was sitting at his desk last night, as a matter of fact. That reminds me, I need to get a desk at the NFL Net. They already removed my desk because my contract was up. And then I re-signed, like, oh, yeah, we don't have a desk for you. But in any event, that's a story for another day. I got a little person, though, so that a little people figure. So take that, no desk, cool. NFL Network. But I find it, I can't see, I don't know. I just don't see us going after Jonathan Taylor. What are you hearing? What do you think? Would it be a good move to go after Jonathan Taylor?
The Bears should absolutely not go after Jonathan Taylor because it would undo absolutely everything they've done to build this team in the image of what Ryan Poles wants.
Yeah.
Think about it. The reason that the Bears moved down to number 9 was, yes, you got DJ Moore. That was the crux of the deal. That's why it got done with the Carolina Panthers. But they wanted that extra one. And to give up that extra one for a running back that hasn't been able to stay on the field always, had a lackluster production last year, for a team that doesn't know if they can contend this year at all, it doesn't make any sense. That extra one is insurance. And I know this is going to get me more in trouble because everybody says I'm a Justin Fields hater.
No.
I'm not a Justin Fields hater.
You're not.
I just want to see him do something.
Yeah.
I want to see him grow, and I want to see him grow into his potential that we all think that he has, including myself. But if that doesn't work out, the Bears now have 2 first-round picks next year as insurance to get another quarterback, which they would need if that ends up happening. So why in the world are you going to get rid of that and build this? Like, Ryan Poles has done a slow but steady build to build a foundation, make sure it's solid before you keep moving on, while also looking for the future. You're giving up that one for Jonathan Taylor right now. That makes no sense. That goes against everything the Bears front office has shown us so far. Now, is that completely out of the question? I guess not. But I don't think that, especially the way this scheme is built and the fact that you do have Justin Fields who can be part of the run game. It's this running back by committee that we talk about all the time that is terrible for fantasy owners, but it's great for the team because they have so many versatile backs and they have a quarterback that also factors in. So why you need Jonathan Taylor? Also, the Colts need Jonathan Taylor. The Colts know that. This is. I tweeted about this. I forgot. I think I replied to Charles McDonald, who's a good friend over at Yahoo. For Verts. But he, I said to him, I'm like, I think this has to be just kind of like mind games, because he was making the case that the Colts are the ones that should be wanting Jonathan Taylor and wanting to pay Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. And it's true. It's kind of one of those things where, like, all right, fine. You want to trade so bad? We'll give you the access to get a trade.
Go do it.
Go do it. But then we're also going to put a price on it that no deal is ever going to get done. So we can say, oh, well, we tried, but come back and play for us, because they need him. And even if that's not the case, it's kind of the same sentiment as the whole Lamar situation was, where the Ravens put the unrestricted tag on Lamar, basically to say, okay, fine. If you want to seek out another deal, we're going to make another team do all the work for us, because then we're just going to match it. And that's why no one ended up offering a deal to Lamar, because they knew that the Ravens were just going to match it. They were just going to do the work for the Ravens. Yeah. And that's exactly, I feel like, the sentiment. It's not exactly the same situation, obviously, but it's kind of the sentiment that the Colts are saying, like, all right, fine, go see what your market value is. But it's not what you think it is. And we're not going to get a 1 in return for you. So we opened the door, but no one's going to walk through it. That's essentially what the Colts are saying here. So the Bears shouldn't go after that. I don't think any team is really going to go after that.
Yeah, Ryan Poles is not some rube that's just going to bite on this thing, because earlier in the offseason, Austin Eckler was given the same option by the LA Chargers. The Chargers told him to go out, like, go make your deal. And then these running backs, and it's an unfortunate part of the NFL right now, is that you're just kind of written out of the NFL in a way. I mean, when you look over the past weekend, and I'm curious to what you thought about Roschon Johnson, but the Bears feel like they found something in Roschon Johnson. I think that watching him against the Colts, you're like, this guy's pretty good. Why would we give up more capital when we already have a guy? I mean, Khalil Herbert we like, Deontay Foreman we like. Like, it just baffles the imagination. And I know that we have column inches to fill and we've got to get clicks, but like, keep the Bears out of it.
I think all three of those running backs in that room they all complement each other well. They're all very, very versatile, and they all have different skill sets that kind of make one super back. So they don't have the name recognition. I think that's where people kind of get into this trap, fall into this trap of like, oh, well, the Bears could use Jonathan Taylor. Well, no, just because you don't know the names of the Bears running backs doesn't mean you won't, and it doesn't mean that they need a guy like this, or even if they could afford it. But I don't think that fits with the way that they've built the team so far.
No, not at all. And that you just brought forth a memory for me, because when I couldn't remember what I had originally wanted to talk about in the cold open, but when you're talking about not knowing who the Bears running backs are, it reminded me of James Jones undressing LaShawn McCoy on Speak for Yourself. When he's like, name one Bears wide receiver from last season, and LaShawn McCoy couldn't do it, and it was amazing. Well, you can talk about that at some other. Actually, we got to get James. Do you know James? Because I do. Okay, yeah, I do too. He's a friend of mine. I would consider him a friend, and we got to get him on the show. I know that a lot of you resist it because it was fun to watch a Packer go out there and defend Justin Fields, because he was absolutely spot on. But on that point, though, I want to go back to your point about having 2 first-round picks as insurance. I know exactly what you're saying, and I don't think that it's unfair to be like, because we can love these players and still be like, well, you got to play. Like, you still have to perform your job. I'm of the mind that Justin Fields will. What I like to say in those situations, because I was making a very similar point at work last night, is that I keep saying, like, well, we need those 2 number ones if we trade up for Marvin Jones Jr. So in case, there's some team up there that like, oh, we got to have some maneuverability. Maybe there's a team that lands in the top 5 who doesn't need a wide receiver, which is highly unlikely. Marvin Jones Jr. could actually be the number 1 overall pick next year. So that's not real. No. The quarterbacks are going. The first non-quarterback. That's what I meant. But I mean, like, that's the one. That's the one you can say to not enrage the Bears fans. You can be like, oh, we need our picks for Marvin Jones Jr. or whatever we might need. Tongue in cheek, we don't know. We're a little cheeky. One area, this is unfortunate. One area we might need a little bit of help. Teven Jenkins is going to be missing some time. He has calf strains in both calves. It looks like he is going to miss 6 weeks. What's the latest on him? I know you're going to be there on Wednesday, but what are you hearing about Teven Jenkins? This is another unfortunate setback for him.
Yeah, it's up to 6 weeks. So Teven Jenkins' injury could keep him out up to 6 weeks. We're 3 weeks out of week 1. So you hope that you can get him back. Maybe you can get him back sooner. Who knows? He has worked way too hard this offseason to kind of let this, I think, derail him. And I think that's a really important point as well, is that even if he misses the first couple of weeks of the season, that doesn't mean the rest of the season is out the window. Yeah. And if he does rest and he gets his body right, I know that he's been injury for the course, but at the same time, he has every incentive this year to go out and make sure the Bears know what they have in him. And he's been working all offseason to do that. And honestly, maybe that's part of the reason why he's already kind of experiencing injuries and calf strains and stuff like that, because he has been like working out all offseason, trying to get better, training at the facility, all under the supervision of the Bears. But still, I mean, he's been working for a very long time. So I hope for the best for him. Honestly, I got to know him at O-Line Masterminds this summer. And I mean, he wants to be great. He wants to be a cornerstone and a pillar of this franchise. He wants to be part of this offensive line. And it really sucks because we talked so much about how the offensive line was going to have continuity finally.
Yeah.
And now we've seen 7 snaps, I think, of what that iteration of the offensive line was going to be, and that's without Nate Davis even. So I hope that this doesn't, it's not a repeat of last year where we couldn't get guys, even though we knew who was supposed to start, that they actually get a chance to play together and build up. But at the same time, they do know each other. They've been working together all off season as well, and throughout training camp before this injury. So I hope that that's enough to, again, when Teven is ready to come back, they can kind of hit the ground running. And yeah, I hope the best for him, because again, I think that he's a great player and he's a great guy, and I would love to see him stay a Chicago Bear.
No, I would too. And I've been a big fan of his ever since we drafted him. I was hoping, going back to that draft, which is where we ended up with Justin Fields, Teven Jenkins was mocked to us at 20 before we made the move up to get the quarterback. And so I've always been a fan. I've always been locked in with him. And, again, like, these seasons are so long and it's just such a grind, and forever, all the work that you have to put into this. If he missed a week or two, but comes back and plays the final 14 games or something like that, that's not a bad option either. But what's the move for the Bears? Do you think that, now I think that what I've heard is that Cody Whitehair was playing left guard. Lucas Patrick went to center. Do they go out? Do they find somebody? Is there somebody on the streets that they could go get? What is the move for the Bears? Or do you just stick with what you have?
I honestly think that you can stick with what you have. And offensive line coaches that I've talked to in the past, when situations like this come up, would much rather try at least to just plug another guy into the spot that needs filled, rather than take another guy out of position and then have two guys playing out of position. Especially if you are hopeful that Teven Jenkins is going to come back after a couple of weeks. So I think that you try to get by with Alex Leatherwood, Tyler Carter. I think you try to do that rather than shift Cody Whitehair over. Granted, that's a place that he's played forever, but you want him to get those reps at center if he's going to stay at center. And in the long term, I think you need to think long term. Now, it doesn't always work out. A kind of example that comes to mind is when I was with the Buccaneers and Ali Marpet missed a bunch of time in the 2021 season with a concussion. And they tried very hard to replace Ali just in his position with one of the backup offensive linemen. It didn't quite work, but that's what they tried to do for 2 games. And the backup, it was Ali Marpet. Ali Marpet was a fantastic guard, and it didn't quite work out. So that's when they ended up moving Ryan Jensen, who was the center, over to guard, and then plugging in someone else at center. But that was like a last resort. And then finally Ali came back and it was fine. But I think that as a general rule with offensive line coaches, I think most of them would rather just plug in one more guy, try to get by with him for as long as you can, rather than getting another guy out of position.
That feels like the move to me. And I really liked and we've talked about this before, having Cody Whitehair at center just makes so much sense. It's not like Lucas Patrick has never played guard. He can go do that. I hope that's what we see moving forward, and that's what they're going to continue to do. But one guy is, forgive me if I don't say this guy's name right, but Kellen Deitch, is it Deitch?
Kellen Deitch.
Deitch. Am I mistaken? And I listen, I know he's a Sun Devil. I'm not the trench guy, but if I'm not mistaken, it looked like he's been playing pretty well.
Yeah, and again, you have to keep in mind though too that the Bears did not play their starters this last game, and he's not playing against a lot of starters. So as much as I want him to stick, and I think he very well could, especially for depth purposes, I think that the Bears will you usually carry between 9 and 11 offensive linemen on your roster, and whether he makes that, I'm not quite sure. He hasn't been a part of the rotation that we saw in training camp, but he did well in the preseason games. If anything, maybe he's playing for his next team. Unfortunately, I want a Sun Devil on the Bears, but
of course,
I'd have to be realistic in the fact that you have to keep in mind with these guys that are getting these reps. Coaches aren't heartless. They want guys to get jobs if it's not going to be with that team. So they're going to play guys that maybe they wouldn't have played. They're going to play them longer. They're going to make sure that they have a bunch of snaps on tape that they can go to other teams and show, hey, this guy and this guy and this guy, yeah, they did really well. So maybe we have a roster space there. But yeah, I mean, like, that's a sentiment that is very common among coaches to be like, all right, we're going to play you a lot more just so you can get more snaps on tape.
Yeah, because, obviously the Saturday night game with the Colts was, for TV purposes, a little bit lackluster because obviously they had the two scrimmages. So they had an opportunity to go see, Justin Fields was playing against the first team defense on Wednesday and Thursday. He couldn't see himself, so he bounced. I've got the way that I have the monitor. I know that if his face shows up, then he's not leaving. He's very much like his father. He loves to see his face on screen. Doesn't like being covered in B-roll all the time. But it is a Rank family trait. But speaking of guys who play well in preseason, and I talked about him at the top of the show, Tyson Bagent is looking really good. I thought that he's looked impressive. I'm not seriously feeling like he's obviously not a threat to be the starting quarterback. But when you compare him to the other two quarterbacks that are currently on the roster, and I'm a big PJ Walker guy. I don't think PJ Walker should be gone. But I think in the competition with Nate Peterman, I think that Tyson's kind of pulled away. So I know, again, he's not going against the starters. But he was playing in the first half. He wasn't the second half mop-up guy. How are you handicapping this battle for the third, what I would assume is the third quarterback spot?
Yeah, I think everything I just said is probably applicable here as well.
Yeah, I know.
In the fact that you're trying to get guys more work so they can put more stuff on tape. The Bears backup quarterback situation is a little bit interesting too, because you had Nate Peterman, but he also he's a completely different player than Justin Fields. And I'm not saying PJ Walker is Justin Fields either. But he's what do you think? What do you think about the Bears backup quarterbacks situation?
Oh gosh, here he comes. Here he comes. All right, you.
Oh, he's so cute.
It's over
he
now.
Looks just like you. Oh my God. I know it's over now. That's fine. We're just gonna talk. Yeah. No, I really think that it's interesting because I think PJ Walker gives you a little bit more of the flexibility that Justin Fields does as far as rollouts, bootlegs, the play action stuff, all of that. Like, Nathan Peterman is a pocket passer. We know that. That's not Justin Fields. So I feel like you have two quarterbacks that do the same thing. I don't know that Bagent gives you anything different.
Yeah.
Or better. I don't know. Again, he's playing against backups. I think the Bears are just kind of doing him a solid here too. I don't know that he will end up making the final roster. I know you said that, but I was like, I don't know if that's the case. You keep a max amount of 3 quarterbacks on a roster usually, although I think the Bucs have kept 4 before.
but like Peterman, I think that we've already seen what Peterman can do. And we already have PJ Walker as the backup quarterback, like the veteran backup that we know can go in there and win games if he needs to. We saw him doing with Atlanta. Wait, who do you like it? Who's your favorite team, by the way? Who's your favorite football team? Okay. The Bears. Good job.
Yeah.
Right. Good job. All right.
So cute.
Now you can go. You made your stand? Okay. No, you're staying? All right. At least wipe your nose. But I think that like PJ Walker gives them he's our veteran. And then it's nice to have that one quarterback that you're going to develop and, who might end up being somebody who can play down the road. So for me, I think I just feel like Nate Peterman, like we've seen him and we know what he's all about. And he's not a bad person, but it's like, I don't know, we've already got our veteran quarterback. Let's go with our young guy. Cause that's the way I'd want it. Our superstar, our veteran backup who's played. And then we have the young guy who's the wild card.
Yeah. And I mean, I think any two of those 3 will be fine. We did see Nate Peterman be very effective still in training camp this year, like in those 2-minute drill situations and the situational stuff that they do in practice. Nate Peterman was pretty successful in a lot of those, whereas PJ Walker maybe wasn't as. I don't know. It'll if you were debating backup quarterbacks though, I mean, that's
it's a good problem to have as opposed to some of the alternatives that we've been doing over the last couple of years. And if we're sitting here and the way you're talking about backups, because obviously being on Twitter, everybody just last night anointed Sam Howell, being the next Joe Theismann for the Washington football franchise. Like, what do you do if your other teams, like Jordan Love's played well? Can we write that off as like, it's preseason. Like, if you're not going to give us Tyson, then I can't give you Jordan Love, right?
No, I don't think it works like that.
Come on. That's exactly how it works.
No. No, and the Packers, to their credit, it's very interesting. They have said that Jordan Love is going to play the entire preseason, and he has. He goes out for 2 or 3 series. He went out 2 series the first game and 3 series the second. But they said that he's going to end up playing the preseason finale as well. But he's going against at least in that first game, he's going against first team defenses and stuff like that. So he's looked really, really good in the preseason. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I told you so. I'm not ready to say that, I guess, yet, because we have to see him in the regular season. But it's not necessarily about who he's going against; it's what he's doing, and how he's commanding the offense, and the chemistry that he has with the guys already, and the reads that he's making, and the decisions that he's making, because he's been in this system for 3 years. Nobody wants to hear me go off about Jordan Love, but I think that he's going to be.
Oh, the chat does. I'm sure the chat's loving this. You dismissing every Bears player who's doing well in the preseason while simultaneously
I'm not dismissing Bears
Jordan
players
Love
doing well.
Is the next Hall of Famer for the Green. Of course, I love this.
Forgive me if Bajan is he's out of Shepherd.
Yeah, it's a big time D2 university.
There's a big difference between an undrafted guy out of Shepherd and a guy that was taken in the first round.
A guy who was a third team All Mountain West. Third team. There were 2 quarterbacks in the Mountain West better than Jordan Love during his. I like Jordan Love coming out of college. I can't front now because you could easily go through my archives at NFL.com and be like, wait a minute, you love. I did. I was a big Jordan Love guy. I still am. I think he can still be a pretty good quarterback. Do I think he's going to be an NFL Hall of Famer? I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I don't know. Actually, it's Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's not the NFL Hall of Fame. It's Pro Football Hall of Fame. Although somehow Damon Allen is not in this Pro Football Hall of Fame, even though he played professional football in Canada. I'm sure our producers love me bringing up the CFL. What's it? Because they're Canadian. So let me have you rain on the parade of another couple of guys that I've really enjoyed this season. Terrell Lewis, I think, has been playing pretty good. And you're judging this, in a vacuum of preseason. I think that he's kind of shown some of the ability, and he was kind of a top prospect when he was playing for the Rams. I think that he's almost earned his way. Him and Travis Gibson have really impressed me so far. What have you made of those two?
I put both of them on our Fox Sports all preseason hype team. So, you can't say that I'm not going to rain on your parade about Terrell Lewis. I think he could end up being a steal for the Bears. I tweeted about that as such. He's had 3 sacks in 2 games.
Yeah.
In the preseason. And again, I know like some of that is getting into the game a little bit further and you're going against more backups after backups. But I think that, the Rams were probably just that bad last year. Also,
I think so. That's really a very real.
So he came out of Alabama. Like that's as pro as you can get in college. So I think that, he doesn't like forget how to play football, and in this system where, he can be just kind of a straight edge guy. I think that would be that, like, he's going to end up being a steal for the Bears. And I think that he makes this final roster. I think Travis Gibson does too. I think that, that depth chart was meant to kind of light a fire under some of these guys.
Oh yeah.
But now, especially now that you have, I say veteran, but Yannick Ngakoue is so young still, it's insane. But you have a veteran like, Yannick Ngakoue and guys that like, and the front office that shows you that they believe in your unit by getting a guy like Yannick Ngakoue. Yeah. So you can pick it up. You can have a really good rotation on that edge, and now they're going to have a big rotation on the inside. I'm not sure how good the rotation is, but they have a lot of guys. They have a lot of depth on the interior of that defensive line, which can help out obviously the edge guys as well. So I think if that all works in conjunction with each other, then you can see Terrell Lewis, and he'll be a depth guy, but and Travis Gibson and DeMarcus Walker and again, Yannick Ngakoue is just going to really, I feel like, do for that unit what maybe DJ Moore did for the wide receivers.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And again, they even intimated, some of the things that I was hearing out of the Colts camp is that Matt Eberflus still very popular. They still sort of miss him back there. I know his defenses, the cover two. Well, we talked about this on Saturday night after the game. The cover two does its thing. You allow yards, but you don't allow a lot of points, which is exactly
points.
That's the way he does it. And you know what? I think in the modern NFL, it works that way too. It's just like these teams are too good. The offense, the game's geared towards offensive players. It's trying to keep people out of the end zone. And I would love to see us improve a little bit more in that respect. Now, the wide receiver position is very interesting to me because DeMaurice Fountain has been playing very well. And guys like Equinemius St. Brown maybe struggled. Even my guy Bayless is, although I think Bayless, some of the comments I've heard recently about Bayless, because he is a good kick returner, and that is a good skill. Like, he has not done well returning, obviously. Like, even I can't hide from this. Like, he hasn't done well returning punts, and he needs some more experience back there. But as a kick returner, he's done well. You can't teach speed. I still think he's safe. Do you think, like, I still believe that Bayless and Equinemius St. Brown are probably safe, even though Fountain has looked very good. What is your read on the wide receiver position? I'm assuming it's going to be very similar to one of the other, like some of these other guys. Who are you playing against? And it's nice that you're scoring late in games, but ultimately it's going to end up being the guys that we expect it to be.
Yeah, and I also think it's the guys that can help you out in different phases of the ball. It's not just being a receiver, but like you said, being a returner. And if Bayless Jones has done enough to show that he can return kicks and just needs to work on his punt returns and holding on to the ball in those cases, I don't know if that's the case, or if maybe DeMaurice Fountain is a guy that can do that as well. Equinemius St. Brown doesn't really return kicks, so he might actually end up being the odd man out. And if you look at this last game, where DeMaurice Fountain went off for like what was it, 85 yards?
Yeah.
The guy that was playing that game with him was EQ. EQ was also playing like the game, and they had rested most of their starters last game. So I'm not saying that Bayless Jones is a lock either necessarily because of the issues that he's had punt returning, but when you look at EQ, he's still on the field, he's still playing when it comes to those games where the starters aren't playing, first team's not playing, and the second team isn't even playing as much. And maybe they're trying to get him some tape so that he can go elsewhere. I'm not quite sure, but it's one of those things where, like you said, I think that who you think is safe, but don't discount special teams value in situations like this.
Yeah, and that's been pretty impressive. And I think that Fountain has just, sometimes again, you have to kind of judge it in the lens of preseason. But we've also seen guys who have done historically, who've kind of emerged in preseason. I remember when Victor Cruz, and this is back before receivers could wear single-digit numbers, where he was on the Giants and he was wearing number 3, which used to be the death sentence of your career. Of like, if you're a wide receiver wearing a single digit, you're getting cut pretty soon. But he was so good, and he came from a school, UMass, that was not a football factory. You're like, oh, it's nice. But then he just was playing so well that you can't deny it. And I think that Fountain is starting to play himself into a situation that's very similar. Like, he's playing too well to where you just cannot ignore it anymore and anything like that. And I'm not saying, you would draft him on your fantasy team. And that reminds me, we should point out that the easiest way to play fantasy football is with Underdog Fantasy. And if you go to underdogfantasy.com right now, you can sign up or go to the app. Even better, download the app, because if you want all the updates with the player injuries and things like that, go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app, and you can get started on your fantasy football season for 2023. And of course, we'll be having a couple of leagues here with the Sick Podcast, competing against not only ourselves on this network, but also our fans, and giving you an opportunity. Anybody who thinks that they want to knock me off or to show me what you can do in fantasy football, you can go out there and do it. Go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app. And if you are a new user, Underdog Fantasy will match your initial deposit up to $100. It is the best way to play fantasy football, and it is also now the most rewarding. It's underdogfantasy.com. So moving forward, the Bears have the Buffalo Bills this week in the final preseason game. What are we looking for? Are the Bears? I haven't found out. Are we playing a lot of the starters? What are we expecting to see in this one?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We haven't heard from Matt Eberflus yet. I think he's talking at 2. And this is pre-recorded, so we'll know by the time this airs what Matt Eberflus says, because he's told us the week before, what's happening. And with the absence of joint practices, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe you get the starters in for a series. That varies by coach. If they see value in getting in some work in this last preseason game before you go on the bye of Labor Day and then kick off the season. So I'm really not quite sure what we're going to see. It's not like it used to be where you knew, with the 4 preseason games and you knew exactly who was playing what week, and that doesn't really exist anymore. It's really up to the coaching staff and stuff like that. So I'll be interested to see, and it's something that we're definitely going to talk to Matt Eberflus about this week, and if not today, then tomorrow when I'm there. So we'll see.
It is one of those things, like the 3rd preseason game was always like the starters play the first half, and then week 4 was ridiculous and nobody played. And,
Right.
it was what it was. And I don't know how I feel about it, because it's always interesting to try to get a read on what these teams are thinking. And, like you said, Green Bay has been playing Jordan Love a little bit. The Commanders played their starters for the first half. And I almost thought that Ron Rivera was going to go for it and just play Sam Howell the entire game and just get after it. Like, let's break that streak, baby. And, but it'll be interesting. And like you said, without joint practices, you still want to get Justin Fields some reps out there.
Yeah.
Especially with the chemistry. I love, and by the way, just watching those guys, watching him and DJ Moore goof around, not just necessarily goof around, but like the stuff that you see, like it feels like a real friendship. Like it doesn't feel fake. Like sometimes when you're watching wrestling, like when Edge and Christian were wrestling, like they're real lifelong friends who grew up together. The Young Bucks are really brothers. The FTR, like these guys, and it's not like some thrown together thing. Like when John Cena is wrestling with The Miz or something. Like this is a real legitimate friendship. What have you thought? Like, I don't know. I just find it enjoyable and it's endearing. And I'm like, I don't know. It just gets me fired up for the season.
Yeah, I mean, they took to each other right away. I keep saying, like, I just happened to be at a Bulls game when it was like the day after the DJ Moore trade happened, and DJ Moore was already in Chicago, and they were up on the Jumbotron, and DJ Moore just handed Justin his baby. And I'm like, great, cool. They already trust each other. It's one day in, and they've got it. Like, he's got his kid in his lap. But then, like, it's also been cool at practice to see DJ Moore talking to Chase Claypool, talking to Darnell Mooney, talking to like the rest of the receivers in the room, and having that same chemistry with them. And obviously it's like, it's not as important as their quarterback chemistry with a wide receiver, but it's important nonetheless. And I think it's going to elevate the entire room that way. And I just think that DJ Moore puts everybody into the roles that they needed to be in always. Like Darnell Mooney was not going to be a number one, even though that's kind of what his job was last year.
Yeah.
That's not his strong suit. That's not his skill set. That's totally fine. But he's going to be a complementary piece, just like Chase Claypool is going to be a complementary piece. And now you have, I feel like everyone just kind of is fitting into their role because of DJ Moore. And I think that translates on that translates on the field and off the field. So It's cool. It's cool. He seems to have, he likes Chicago, it seems, and has assimilated very quickly.
He's taken to it very well, which I love to see. And Chicago's not a tough city to fall in love with. So it's very
to love. No,
it's very reasonable. But it is like you said, and again, to use wrestling analogies, as much as I loved Kofi Kingston as the WWE champion, it feels better with, when guys like Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns are the champion, like they're the alpha dogs, the A number one. So the other guy, guys like Kofi, who I love, sometimes you're good as the 1B. I won't even say number 2, but as the 1B. So a lot of exciting stuff going on, and I'm looking forward to seeing these games this weekend and finally getting started, getting geared up for some real football. So what do you have going on with foxsports.com? What can we expect to see from you in the next couple of days?
Well, I will actually be talking to Brian Flores right after this, actually, to talk about the Vikings defense and how that kind of transition is coming along between what they did last year and now in Brian Flores' system. I am going to be at the Bears game this weekend and am, I believe, going on Fox 32 pregame with Cassie Carlson. So that'll be exciting too as well. And then, hopefully we get through this weekend and then we're in the home stretch. So there'll be different features, and our Fox Sports staff is putting together a lot of fun kind of group projects as far as rankings and hype teams. We're doing an all preseason hype team every week. So that I think came out today. and it's coming out next week after the last game. Yeah, so go check it out.
I will check that out for sure. Although, the hype team, the hype's kind of my thing, but whatever, it's okay. There's plenty of hype to go around. I will let everybody know that I will be joining Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer on Wednesday to talk to them. Jeff Joniak, always very gracious with his time to allow me to go out there. It always feels embarrassing when I'm talking to Tom Thayer because he's like a legitimate human being, and I'm just me. I'm some goofball, but he's always very polite and very kind to me. Unless I miss our meeting time, then he has no. Then he doesn't put up with my BS, which he shouldn't. And but no, I love going on with those guys. I love the Bears broadcast team. It is always. I didn't like having to listen to the Colts. No disrespect to Ken Venturi, which it was fun listening to because like he's been coaching for 80 years and still has this like such old school mentality. But I miss, and I know it's Adam Amin. But I still miss the Bears broadcast team, and I would love to do that. By the way, and then NFL Fantasy Live continues to roll on. I'll be on Wednesday, and then next week we start our regular season schedule, so to speak. So we'll be on Monday through Friday for the full hour. I'll be on 4 days a week. I do a couple of shows with our girl Cynthia, which is always a lot of fun. Cynthia's the best. I know that you're very biased, but Cynthia's the best. Yeah. Kimmy's awesome as well. Since Kimmy's also
amazing. Yeah, you got a great team there.
We got a great team, and so we look forward to doing a lot more of that moving forward. And we do have some announcements coming down with the Sick Podcast. There's changes, but they're good. We're going to be expanding, so there's a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be doing this coming season, and we can't wait to talk to you about it. But we can't talk about it right now. And this guy, we got to get this guy, and we got to get your sister to soccer practice, right? Yeah. This is my assistant coach. Okay. Oh, you're going to play too? Okay, great news. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Thanks. You probably see me in the comments going after the Lions fan. But in any event, thanks so much for being here. We will see you after the Bears game this week. Oh, let's see if we can get Cynthia on. I don't know if we can, but we'll try. In any event, thanks so much. We'll see you after the Bills game. And for Carmen, I'm Adam. And bear down. And Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by Underdog Fantasy.